Hello and welcome to the 107 podcast with myself, Ash, and my co-host Jacob. Today we're not going to do the podcast over Zoom or audio. We're going to go outside and just do it in front of a motorhome or anything like that. We're just going to do it impromptu. We're not going to do anything formal in case the FIA just try and find us.
Yeah, it's probably a good idea. Let's be honest. There's a lot of fucking swearing on this shit. So
There's a lot of swearing, so we'll just take it outside, right?
It just sounded like you were offering me out for a fight, which I guess is arguably what Max is doing against the FIA. So there we go.
Yeah, good on him.
Yeah, Singapore. Not a bad race weekend, but not one for the history books, right?
No, I think it's strange. We've not had a safety car in the last few races.
So odd.
Even with K-Mag back and no penalty points.
He had one job.
He almost
did it, to be fair. He had one job.
I don't think there was any yellow flags either. That's what I heard.
I think there were one or two at points.
Okay.
But from what I remember, but like nothing. There was during quali, which we can talk about later. But like, yeah, there wasn't anything really.
No, it literally was Lando didn't lose a place in the first lap, and they just went on and built a massive lead, bar a couple close calls. You know, I think the only thing really was Ferrari just being out of position.
I mean, you've summarised the weekend. Should we just call it quits there? We've been recording now for 1 minute and 33 seconds, so let's just...
I mean, it's one of those things, you know how we talk about like Formula One's crazy outside of the racing? This podcast, we're going to talk about more of the stuff that's happened off the track.
Yeah, let's run through everything that happened during the Grand Prix, and then that will lead us into one of the big topics today, which of course is around Daniel Ricciardo. So let's talk Grand Prix. I think let's go through, like, for qualifying, was there any standout moments for you, really? I didn't expect Max to be that high up on the grid.
I did expect him to be that high up, but I did expect an improvement. I know we talked about it in the last episode that we did for Baku, like the car wasn't there, but I think they understood some things, and Max being Max maximized it.
Yeah.
Easy to play on words there.
Nice.
Don't
get that on the podcast.
You know, sorry, just lost my train of thought.
Max was maximizing. I think that one of the key things for me, while you try and rejig your brain, is that Charles and Carlos should probably have been higher up.
Yeah.
You know, they were P9 and 10. Now, although they got a lot of overtakes done towards the end of the race, which is great for my fantasy team, not so good for them actually. So I think that if they'd have, you know, been maybe third and fourth, maybe, or third and fifth, which is more realistic, I think that could have caused Max a few problems because the Ferraris had race pace.
The Ferraris had race pace, as Leclerc showed. And obviously Oscar was a little bit out of position because his Q2 time would have put him at P2.
Yeah.
So, but you know what? That's how you win championships, right? You maximize what you got.
Yeah.
I think Max knew coming into this he wasn't going to win the race. And the best he could have probably thought was P3 and to get P2 out of it. And I think, is it Miami? The gap between him and Lando at Miami is the same now.
Yes, I think it's the same.
All of those
1
races,
point off. Yeah.
Yeah, the fact that he hasn't won but it's still maintained that gap, like that's championship mentality.
Yeah, I mean, there's not really anything else to talk about during about quali or anything like that. I think everything else is pretty standard. I
think obviously Daniel Ricciardo, don't know what happened there. Yuki qualified well. Fernando did well compared to Stroll.
Fernando did well. I mean, that's pretty normal, to be fair, I argue.
And obviously the big incident with Carlos, where he unfortunately lost it on the way for his flying lap.
Yeah, he came off the racing line and then came back onto it, but had obviously picked up some dust on his tyres, or they'd cooled down or whatever, and just didn't have enough grip going through the final corner.
Yeah. So yeah, which is a shame because, you know, it would be interesting to see what they'd done there. And Mercedes were I think good on Hamilton for getting into P3.
Yeah,
that was quite a stellar performance. And not really much happened. And I think the only worry thing is also the lizard in the practice. There's always Godzilla. Godzilla always comes around.
Always somehow appears. Yeah. We usually have some animals on track. I wasn't expecting Wasn't expecting it, but there we go. It's always fun. I also saw a marshal at the start pretending to be the lizard. I don't know if you spotted that.
I didn't know.
Pretty good. She just like cracked her arms and legs wide and they just started running. It was pretty good. But it was like sort of off to the side, like it wasn't really obvious. Somebody on like Threads picked it up, I think. But yeah, no, quali was reasonably like expected. Nothing out of the ordinary, other than obviously the Ferraris being a little bit lower down. But then during the race, how did you find the race? Because me, as the incredibly biased McLaren fan, I was reasonably happy.
I just wish there were just like just a few more battles, but it kind of just like once Charles couldn't really get past Fernando and Fernando couldn't get past Hulkenberg, kind of set the tone for the race that there's not really going to be many overtakes and it's going to be done through strategy.
Yeah,
and it was just a procession, and I think we were hoping for like yellow flag, safety car, VSC to just spice it up, but it was a dominant win by Lando.
Yeah, it really was. You can't really knock it, to be honest. Like, he did everything he needed to do. Yeah. I am actually going to knock it though. He obviously won by 20.9 seconds, and it probably could have been a little bit more. But there were moments during the race where he made contact with the wall. He went a little bit too deep into and we saw them react to that in the cool-down room. They went a little bit deep in one of the corners. And he was, at points, millimeters or even centimeters off of not even finishing the race. So compared to, for example, Max, and I understand this is a learning curve for Lando, is that, like, you know, he still had pace in the car, and maybe on a more traditional circuit with bigger runoff areas, he probably could have even extended that time even further, or not picked up damage, which cost him that time that could have taken him a bit further. But then compared to Max, who seemingly didn't really make a mistake, kept everything smooth and tidy, although he was 21 seconds behind Lando, there was still a further 21 seconds between him and Oscar. So Max also performed ridiculously well, and I think pushed the car further than it should have been. But the difference is the drivers is that one just couldn't quite keep it as tidy as they would have liked, and the other did. And one is a 3-time world champion, the other one is not. That's the key difference in terms of those two at the moment, is that I think that we're still in that very, like, do you remember when Max was like on the podium quite a bit for Red Bull, pushing Mercedes every now and again, maybe P2, mostly P3. Lando's in that stage right now, but the problem is that Lando has the Mercedes and Max is still in the Red Bull type thing if you compare the two. So that's where I feel like the difference is for that, is that Lando still has a little bit longer to like mature at the front of the grid, because McLaren have not been there for such a long time. This is the first two races they've won back-to-back since 2012.
Wow, shit.
That's a big stat. I think it was Brazil and something, maybe US, I think, was the last back-to-back wins for McLaren, and that was Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button driving for them. So that's what I mean in terms of, like, not only have they not had drivers who are used to winning at the front other than Fernando Alonso, and we all know how that went at McLaren, that, you know, it's completely new ground for them and their drivers. So yeah, you can see the differences, is all I'm trying to say anyway. It could have been a little bit smoother. I took a while to get to my point, but
a few moments later.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, he'll get it in time. I'll give him a little bit of leeway because it's Singapore.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not knocking it at all. You saw how exhausted these guys were when they got out of the car. I couldn't do a lap, let alone 62.
And I also think it's, you know, Max makes it look easy, but it's easier to chase than be in the lead. And
true,
because like I said, you make one mistake. But no, well raced. Even though you made those mistakes, well raced by Lando. And this is obviously, we'll talk about it a bit more, but he could have got that is it Grand Slam or Grand Shalom? They got it.
Yeah, it's a Grand Slam.
Grand Slam, yeah. It's so close to getting that as well. So yeah, but there's not really much to talk. I mean, Colapinto, I loved it.
Colapinto did very well.
considering it's
Singapore.
Yeah.
Unlucky
He's
to
also
finish
just
outside.
hilarious.
Yeah. He's got a bit of personality about him. Which is really, really nice to see.
Yeah, that's good. I think the Ferraris underperformed. That shows how important qualifying is. I think maybe Charles could have got P3. He was up there. Strange to put Lewis on the softs.
So apparently there was a thing where essentially the team didn't really consult Lewis about the proper strategy. He wasn't happy with going on softs.
Yeah,
at the beginning
I don't blame him, because
I don't blame him either.
Like, he didn't have the race pace, so even if he got past Max and Lando at the start, they would have got him in strategy in the pit stops and stuff like that. So
odd. It's just odd from Mercedes. I don't know why. I think there was a radio message at some point as well where he was like, I don't know why I do this sometimes. And I'm like, okay.
That's how I feel. Like, Tuesday work. I don't know why I do this sometimes.
I mean, he's now done 350 races in Formula One, beating Kimi Raikkonen's 349. And the irony of delivering a Kimi line the weekend that you break that second place in terms of number of GP starts is pretty ironic. But yeah, he had a frustrating weekend. I'd actually also argue that Oscar probably didn't have, the most normal weekend too. Because, he was sort of just racing on his own. Once he got past George, he was just on his own in no man's land, which must have been odd for him as well. Because he couldn't quite, there was no way he was going to catch Max, let's be honest.
Yeah, but I think but he didn't help himself with, obviously, with qualifying.
No.
But I think, he was my driver of the day to get himself into a podium position. He made that key overtake at the start. Who was it against? Hulkenberg?
Yes.
And then obviously jumping the Mercedes in the stops. So, not the best qualifying, but I think he good damage control from him.
Yeah, I think Nico did particularly well.
Nico did really well.
As well. Like, I hats off to Nico. But I also just realised we're not talking about arguably the elephant in the room. Lando Norris kept the lead after lap 1.
Yeah, well done to him. Because I thought Max might get him.
I thought he would. But Lando got a great start.
Yeah.
I think Max also got a great start, but Lando got a great start and just kept it. And I'm pleasantly surprised. He's learning. No, very, very happy about that. But yeah, I just realised, we did not talk about that at all.
I mentioned it. Clearly, you just don't listen.
Apparently, I don't listen to you. So, oops. But yeah, I'm running through the rest. I did think it was funny how long it took Sergio to overtake Colapinto as well. Like that.
I'm going to give Sergio the benefit of the doubt based on Charles versus Fernando. Versus Nico.
Yeah,
I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt there, kind of thing. So
I'm also trying to work out who was more nothingy this Grand Prix weekend, Sauber or Alpine. Like, I don't remember seeing any of them on my TV.
No, I don't either.
No, both of them had horrible weekends by the looks of things. Down there with Lance, it's not a good look. No. I think Daniel, obviously being P18, I think towards the end he was a lot higher. He was like 15, 14, something like that, off the top of my head. So I think that obviously, he pitted early and this is obviously going to be one of the next points. He pitted early, I guess late, for softs to go for fastest lap, which is technically the record for the fastest lap at that circuit, because obviously they've changed the configuration slightly. Point to you if you know who has the current lap record.
Kevin Magnussen.
Oh, who knew? But what do you think about Red Bull asked RB to make Daniel pit so that he could steal the fastest lap point? Thoughts on that?
If it's like what they said it was, to let Daniel go out like that, that's fine. If there was outside influence, that's pretty messed up, right? Because essentially it's McLaren versus 4 drivers.
Yeah, which is not fair.
It's not fair, right? Because technically they could say, actually, you know what? We're going to let the VCARB drivers stay out, and it's Singapore. It's hard to overtake, and it will ruin our race, it'll ruin our points collection, but Yuki or Daniel just hold up Lando.
Yeah, we're going to let them get a warning for blue lights.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's a bit unfair. That's very unfair.
I saw that Kim Illman alleged that Horner had told Daniel to go for the fastest lap at the end or something like that. I don't believe it whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't know how he would have
I don't, but half of the stuff that he comes out with, I'm like, no.
Also, sometimes there may not be outside influence, but if I'm Laurent Mekies, I'm like, it's kind of a win-win. Daniel goes out the fastest lap, and you take that point away for the big team.
So, speaking of Daniel,
you segued it. You segued it to Daniel.
I am a little bit frustrated about a few different things around this topic. So, first thing I'm frustrated about is the fact that, and you mentioned him earlier, Laurent Mekies doesn't know who's going to be driving for him next race weekend. That's outrageous. Like, the fact that the team principal doesn't know who's driving for them the next time. Like, what? That's so badly managed. It's insane. Speaking of bad management, do you not remember Christian Horner in January of last year, whatever, when Daniel was confirmed as the Tesla reserve driver for Red Bull, right? He was like, this is not the Daniel that we recognize. Like, he's picked up some bad habits. Like, I think he even said something around, like, you know, Daniel's lost a bit of weight, like, whatever. Like, you know, he needs to be eating properly. Like, you know, so, like, sort of stuff and talking about the bad treatment of him. To then have this situation, kettle, pot. you know, like, that's a bit ironic to have been lashing out at McLaren and I guess arguably Alpine/Renault to then treat a driver like this, who I would argue has done quite a hell of a lot for Red Bull. It's not on. It just isn't on.
So I'm going to give 2 sides. I'm going to give like the racing side, right?
Yeah.
Let's just assume it is Liam Lawson. Giving Daniel as making Singapore's last race makes sense if you're bringing Liam Lawson in.
Yes and no, but go on.
And I'll tell you why. It's like Liam doesn't have the pressure, even though he has delivered, of like, I've got a race in a week. I've got a race in 2 weeks. I've got 4 weeks off and it's not a shutdown. So I can go do loads of sim work. True. I can spend time with my performance engineers, my race engineers, and start building that relationship, right? And he's got 4 weeks to do that. So it makes sense. If you're bringing a driver in, that's a good time to do it.
Yeah.
That's fine. What I do not like is how they've actually handled the situation.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Which is what they should have done is if everyone knows, and Daniel knows that Singapore was the last race, we've made this decision as Red Bull, VCARB, whatever, to bring in Liam Lawson. But we're going to let you go out dignity and respect. We're going to let you do the announcement. You can put it on social media. You can hold a press conference. And that way, he gets, you know, it takes another weight off him. He can answer questions and not having to like, maybe this, maybe that, you know, and also it takes a little bit of the focus away from him because people will be asking Liam Lawson questions, right?
Yeah.
But they should have let him handle it like, Daniel, we're going to let you do it. It's just been a PR disaster. And I have no idea, depending on, like, we don't know who's in the car.
Yeah.
I have no idea whether like you're gone, but don't tell anyone, but make it obvious, but don't tell anyone.
Yeah, I don't understand. It's almost like a badly kept secret, almost like Kimi joining Mercedes was. Like, it's on that level of badly kept secrets.
Yeah.
And for me, I don't get how we went from Daniel potentially replacing Sergio Perez in Belgium, which was not that long ago, to Daniel's last race in Singapore. That doesn't make sense to me. So what the hell has happened between those 2 times? I understand that maybe, like, you know, Daniel hasn't performed, which is obviously the other argument, you know, that he hasn't performed. But I would also argue, I know they've obviously come out and said, like, the performance hasn't quite been there, etc., from Sergio, but, it's actually part of development, so we'll give him a little bit of a pass, blah, 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 right? But they're using, like, the commercial side of stuff to keep Sergio in. Like, he has a lot of sponsorships and stuff like that, like bringing in a lot of money to the team. I would argue that Daniel is probably bigger to RB than Sergio is to Red Bull in terms of the amount of cash that they bring in, because there is also the sponsorship side of stuff. Because
I don't think so.
I've heard that half the reason why RB have those big sponsorships is because of Daniel, meaning that they're probably going to lose some next year if they bring in Liam Lawson right now. So to use one argument for one side and then the same argument the other side, but it's just odd. I think
I'm not too sure.
So apparently they're going to lose their like Visa sponsorship. Apparently that's one of the things. Like next year they're not sponsoring it. If Daniel was the main reason why, apparently like Visa and Boss, this is what I've heard, will not be sponsoring the team next year because Daniel isn't there. So I don't know what to tell you, but that's what I've heard, allegedly. So this is what I'm saying in terms of like there might be some more fallout from this than you expect.
Nah, I don't think so. I think they've made the decision.
I'm sure there's contracts and blah 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 blah, but yeah. But so that also leads me on to they have the US races coming up next, right? Or like one of the US races. And guess who is probably arguably the biggest driver in the US outside of Lewis Hamilton? Daniel Ricciardo. So to get rid of him before the US Grand Prix also doesn't kind of make sense from a financial / exposure type thing as well. So there's that argument too. It's just, for me, it's also a little bit odd. I get the reason of, there's not a shutdown, there's a 4-week break, but still I'm like, now? Really? He was supposed to, or allegedly, taking over Sergio's seat in Spa to this. It just doesn't make sense. It's just very confusing, and it's like
it is very confusing.
Yeah, I still don't quite believe it. That's how confusing it is.
If they're letting him go, surely they're like, hey, he can speak to Audi or Haas,
yeah,
or Andretti.
Well, here we go. Finally, it's been like 6 weeks. Another mention of Andretti.
Right, he can maybe at least make plans for like, okay, if I'm not going to be here, I should be able to talk to other teams and stuff like that. Because the way he's acted, it's like he's not coming back to Formula One.
No, but like the race weekend before, nothing. Like there was no indication whatsoever.
Yeah,
like
it's a very weird situation. It's not been handled.
It's so odd. It's been handled so badly. And like I said, for all these things to have happened, like the issues with potential sponsorship and blah blah blah, and like the issues with how Horner called out McLaren and Renault for the treatment of Daniel, and then done the same thing, and the whole management of Red Bull and stuff like that and their drivers. It's always just so odd. It doesn't quite make any sense. I understand there are secrets because they need to be secrets, but sometimes it's just better to just come out and say something.
Yeah,
this does not look good on Red Bull or RB.
No, because like everyone seemed to know in the media.
Yeah.
He's been asked that question like a million times by everyone. He's getting those weird team radios, we want to let Daniel go out on a high. The way that Max was like, thanks, Daniel. Maybe you could read into that, maybe you can't.
Yeah.
The guy's got tears in his eyes. He's one of the last to leave the paddock. It's just like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, it stinks of...
I'm sorry. I was about to do... I've got to do community service now.
Oh, you just... I don't know, honestly. I've got no idea at all. But it is very, very odd.
Yeah, it's super
the whole situation. Like I said, I think Terry said that it should happen, like the announcement / change should happen like early next week, apparently.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like around then anyway. Maybe sooner, maybe later. But I do want to also put it out there. None of this is against Liam Lawson. I'm excited to see Liam Lawson in a F1 seat.
Oh, no. I'm happy to see Liam as well. And he hasn't done anything wrong. He's not gone around saying, I've got this release clause in my contract and expect things soon. He's just kept himself to himself.
I think the only thing that I don't even know if he said it, but the only thing that was said was that he's been told that he has a seat for 2025. That's the only thing I've seen anywhere. I don't even know if that came directly from him. That might have come from Helmut Marko.
Okay, yeah, and also, like, who's actually looking at these driver contracts? I don't think Kim Illmans knows what's in the contracts.
I know he takes a lot of photos, but if he has photos of driver contracts, Kim, you need to post them, mate, honestly.
So everyone's like, oh, the contract has this release clause and all that. And I was like, okay, pretty sure it's quite illegal to do some of these things as well.
I don't know.
Yeah, so it could be Daniel's last race, which is a shame.
So for him to whimper out like this,
yeah,
I just don't like it.
Should have let him go out on his own terms.
Yeah, it's not.
Let him make the announcement and all that. Just let them have some fun with it as well, kind of thing.
Yeah. Speaking of fun, on a more fun topic, did you see Ollie Bearman in the paddock this weekend?
I did.
He had some fun. He took over Ferrari's social media for FP1. And essentially has joined a lot of drivers, including Daniel, in just taking up photography around the paddock, which has been quite interesting to see,
nice.
Which is quite cool. Just a quite cool little thing. Appreciate it. Quite fun that, there's a little bit more like personality coming through from these rookies, like Colapinto joking and stuff like that. Like
Colapinto's hilarious.
Like I also saw a picture of Seb and Lewis like messing around with like bunny ears and stuff like that, and then I saw almost exactly the same thing of Kimi and Ollie doing it as well, both in Mercedes and Ferrari gear respectively, and it was very much like an imitation of years ago. It was just very weird and odd, but quite cool to see as well. Yeah. I really liked that. That was also quite fun. I don't know where that photo came from, but very, very cool. Like past/present with Lewis, and then also the future of these two rookies as well. It was just quite cool. I think the photo was taken like during media duties or whatever, but cool. Very, very cool. What else do we have to talk about? We can talk about Max and the Max versus the FIA.
Do it.
What's your? Do you want to summarize it very quickly and then give me your take?
Well, they've been told to swear less because it's a sport on during the day. It could be watched by kids.
Yeah.
In terms of them on the radio, I give them complete leeway. Right, the stress and pressure they're under, they should be allowed to swear. And because it's a broadcast, they can beep it out. They can start it out, right? It's fine. Maybe in interviews they could watch their language. But in all honesty, have you ever heard an interview from any driver, team principal, where you're like, hold on, mate, you're using a lot of bad language here? Sometimes they might drop the F-bomb. And it's like, okay, it's a mistake, especially because Max is Dutch and they really don't give a shit about it, right?
No, they don't, no.
So, but I don't know where it's come from. I think it's stupid. And I think to give him community service for like a first offense, they're just trying to like power play here, right? And I'm glad Max has given it back to him.
So when I heard that Fernando Alonso's Bezzy mate was one of the people that gave Max community service, I was like, this makes sense. Apparently, Johnny Herbert was one of the people that decided on the community service. So,
fuck,
that makes sense.
Fuck me, man.
He does not seem fun at all. He's the sort of person that would remind a teacher that they haven't set any homework. He's that kind of person, seemingly. Yeah. So that's fun. But for me, the irony of saying, "Oh, we need to do this less," blah 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 blah, right? But they don't bleep out the swearing in like Drive to Survive. And they laud that all over the place, the success of Drive to Survive, blah, 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 how raw and gritty and how close you get to the drivers, the other side of the drivers that you don't see, even though half of the storylines are made up, but that's a completely different argument. It's just a bit kettle pot. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
you love saying that. You love saying
that. I must have heard it once in the last week, and it's just now become a thing.
I just think it's a power play, and they're trying to.
I don't.
You dropped one F-bomb, and now we're going to make you do community service.
No, he should a slap on the wrist, whatever. Like as long as actually, it depends how the conversation's gone in the room as well. Because I can't imagine that Max got called to the stewards and he was like, "What the fuck am I here?" And Johnny's gone, "Stop now." And Max has gone, "I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. What is this shit?" Like literally, like I can imagine him being like, "Why am I here?" And the fact that the other drivers are backing him up, inclusive of Lewis as well. Lewis came out and even said, "If I were him, I wouldn't be doing it," which is hilarious. So good. And it leads on to another topic, which we'll get to in a minute. But like, I'm all for it. Like, I admittedly swearing in a press conference, sure, but the press conferences aren't streamed live. So
I mean, you don't see. So obviously from Sky Sports, I don't see them on Sky Sports afterwards. I don't see them on YouTube afterwards.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if they're streamed live. Then I take my comment back. But
yeah, so I don't know if it's different on F1 TV or anything like that.
I can double check my facts, but I probably will forget. But also at the same time, then for the other argument, which is like, please swear less, especially like on the radio, because we're broadcasting these messages. And this leads me on to the support from Lando in terms of, well, they don't have to broadcast the messages.
Yeah,
they don't have to broadcast team radio.
They you know why they broadcast it? Because they know it's engaging.
It's juicy. It's engaging juicy content. So
yeah, it's like he could say, "This is not great," or "This is not fucking great."
Put
that out in the feed right now. We want to show how angry that driver is.
Like, I think that it's funny when George Russell goes on the radio and he's like, "Flipping hell, I almost bonked my noggin on that corner." Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's very PG, which is great. But also, I've heard him swear a lot, right? But you get my point, is that if you had that for every driver, it'd be a bit dry. But because he's one of the only ones who doesn't.
Can you imagine Yuki?
God.
Yuki is so funny.
I love Yuki. But like, can you get my point in terms of like, that just doesn't make sense? And also, you have to remember that these drivers are inches away from, admittedly, the safety. You know, safety's pretty good nowadays, but they're inches away from being killed if something goes horribly wrong. Maybe let them swear a bit.
Yeah.
I think that's fine, lads. I think there are much bigger issues to be tackling other than swearing.
Yeah. Oh, I seem to have smashed my car. Oh, it seems to be on fire.
Oh, bother. Like, come on. Yeah, ridiculous. I'm very interested to see what community service would you give Max for swearing? What would you like to see? Because it's also not community service. It's like the wording is slightly different, is it? It's like of community interest. It's not services of community interest or something. And I think people have just said, "Oh, it's community service."
I think what I would do, the FIA would do, would be very different. But if it was me,
what would you get to do other than go karting with you?
If you wanted like a practical answer, I would, they do the F1 in schools. I would send him to one of those and like be a judge, someone that they can talk to and ask questions. That's what I would do.
I think that would be pretty good. Or you get him to go to one of the like one of the things that like F1 Academy is doing pretty recently, whereby they're like inviting girls to go go-karting for, I don't know if it's free or whatever, I don't know the details, but like where they're encouraging young girls to go-karting who might have an interest but have never really done it before. Getting him to go there and give a little bit of advice to some of the kids there trying to go-kart would be arguably life-changing for one or two of them, potentially. So that could be quite cool. I'm sure there's a go-kart track somewhere in the Netherlands or somewhere near Monaco where he could go and do that, like, after an afternoon over the next 3 or 4 weeks. But also at the same time, if I'm him, I'm not doing it. In protest, I loved his protest. What did you think about the protest that he did in giving basic answers? He did nothing wrong. He did nothing wrong. Fair play to him.
Yeah, and the fact is, like, I won't give you the answers. We'll just do it on my terms outside. And I think be that petty.
Yeah, I love it. I love being petty, and he's done it for me. It's brilliant. I think the one thing that maybe like Red Bull PR comms people would have told him is like, okay, you've done it now, you've made your point, maybe don't do it again. Because in the post-race interview, he seemed to be fine. There was no like, oh, let's just go chat outside like last time or whatever. So maybe somebody's had a word with him to say like, hey, don't do it again, because then the FIA could actually,
And
have
if
a
I'm
bit of a
Max,
problem with it.
fucking do it again.
Yeah, but then again, like, you're Max Verstappen, like you arguably you do what you want. Like, I think that, especially, and this leads us on to our next topic, with Red Bull arguably falling apart at points, and with the new regulations, which Max says that he doesn't particularly like, is being pushed for the world title at the moment. Not really, but really, we'll get onto that in a bit. But there's an argument that he could lose the world title this year to be made. It's a very weak argument, but he could just disappear from the sport and go do something else.
You could.
He's made more than he's made more than enough money. People typically that have their own private jets make quite a bit of bloody money. So I think he's probably fine. Like, he's set for life. So he could go do like more sim racing stuff. He could go into other classes. He could take a break from F1. He could do whatever he wants. So to then be like, just slapped on the wrist with this is a bit pathetic.
Yeah.
Just
They're
classic
not paying themselves
FIA.
in a good light. The
Classic FIA. They could have won some brownie points there, but they haven't.
Could have. Yeah.
But next topic was, I would argue this is a pretty big coup for McLaren. They have taken their head of strategy, whose name has completely escaped me, but I will find out. It is
Will Courtney.
Will Courtney, or Courtenay? Courtenay? I don't know, because
It's spelled Courtenay. So
yeah,
it be pronounced that way.
Will, from Red Bull, will be the new sporting director for McLaren. And considering that arguably the weakest point of McLaren, the weakest chain in its armour right now is strategy, that's a pretty good hire. I'm not going to lie. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's going to join in 2026, though.
I'm just double checking. It continues to be part of their team, seeing out his contract until mid-2026. Yes.
Okay, so
little under 2 years.
wow,
It's a long time. So very clearly, Red Bull had him tied up in a very good contract. But it's not going to make a difference for the next 2 years. But McLaren's strategy, as we know, has been lacking at times. They ask the drivers too much. They've been making the wrong decisions. And there have been now, following like Wheatley's departure, because he's going to Audi, it's almost falling apart.
Brain drain.
Seems like Red Bull is sort of just, ironically, running out of energy.
Well, they had Marshall and Podmoru in the aerodynamics department come to McLaren, and we've seen what's happened there. And I'm pretty sure they probably said, look, if you want to hire someone in strategy, Will's the guy to get.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
So,
I obviously the effect won't be instant. It will take about 3 years.
So do you reckon, what's the name? Sabrina?
Hannah Schmidt.
Hannah Schmidt.
Yeah.
Hannah Schmidt, yeah. Maybe she gets promoted.
Probably. If she plans on sticking around, I think it would be, from the outside looking in, not a terrible idea for her to do so.
Yeah.
I think why
Good
not?
Good little coup.
Yeah, for McLaren it was. Yeah, for Red Bull, not so sure.
Red Bull are losing a lot of talent.
A lot, and they've already lost a lot to Mercedes. No, they pinched a lot from Mercedes, and now McLaren are pinching a lot from Red Bull. So
and Aston are pinching a lot.
Aston are pinching a lot as well. So it's very interesting, to say the least, what's happening at the moment. But yeah, because I think that, like I said, that's the weakest part of McLaren at the moment is their strategy. So yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. We just got to wait a couple of years.
yeah, very, very interesting. And so before we finish off, we'll do one more sort of, I guess, headline, which is that, like you said earlier, Lando now has the same gap to the championship lead as he did in Miami, or around Miami. Thoughts on that? There's 6 races left to go. How are you feeling? Because I think that Lando would have to, and this is mathematically, Lando would have to win every single race between now and the end of the season, including sprint races. And even if he picks up fastest lap the entire time for races proper, all Max has to do is finish second.
I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure, like F1.
Sorry. If Max finishes second to Lando and everything,
in
Max
everything,
yeah, he still wins the championship.
Then Max still wins.
Yeah, because of that fastest point thing.
Yeah. So can you see? First question: can you see Lando winning everything else for the rest of the year, given how the first half of the season's gone?
No.
Right. Second of all, can you see Max finishing second every time this year?
No.
Right. Okay. So that completely disregards those first 2 points immediately.
But what I mean is, like, those stats don't paint a fair picture because Mercedes and Ferrari jumped up in performance.
Yeah.
I think the only way Lando will win is if Max DNFs and he wins the race.
Max has to have some sort of technical difficulty.
Max has to have a technical difficulty. Because, like, Ferrari, Leclerc could win a few races. Mercedes could win a few races. So it's like it's not Lando versus Max. It's Lando versus Max versus George versus Lewis versus Charles versus Carlos versus Oscar.
Yeah. I mean, I'd argue every Drivers' Championship is that.
But I think everyone's like, it's Lando versus Max. And you know what? I think Max could just put a performance out of his ass and maybe like win Brazil.
Yeah.
You know, he might DNF, and that'll be the race based on how the season's going, where Lando DNFs as well.
I would like it to be like Abu Dhabi 21. Bear with me. I would like it to come down to the last race. Oh, right, you got that point out there. I would like it to come down to the last race, right? Because it would make it interesting. Or, you know. But I don't think it will. I can't see Lando winning everything.
I don't think there's going to be a constant. It's not going to be a Lewis Max 2021 where it's just them 2-1-2-1-2-1. It's start. No. There's too many other drivers.
There's too many variables. There's too many other drivers that are up there.
I can see. So let me just bring up the schedule again. I can see Leclerc put it on pole in Texas.
Yep.
I can see Leclerc putting it on pole in Las Vegas.
I mean, Vegas is a big one as well. Qatar, I can see McLaren doing very well at Qatar because it's a traditional
I can see them doing well. Mexico, I can see McLaren doing well. Brazil, I can see Max just pulling a worldie.
Pulling away, yeah.
Abu Dhabi probably erring towards Max if the car's under control.
Yeah.
But, you know, you throw in like Lewis Hamilton at Brazil. It could be Max and Lewis 1-2.
Yeah.
George Russell's won there as well.
Yeah.
You know? Mercedes could just have an amazingly strong race.
Yeah, you never know.
So,
But for me, I still stand by saying that it is McLaren's strategy that have made this or put this into the position that it's currently in. They messed up in Great Britain. There was that whole kerfuffle in Hungary. There was the whole kerfuffle in Italy a few weeks ago, whereby, you know, Piastri overtook Norris when he wasn't expecting it. Papaya rules. There have been so much random shit around it, and Max has just been consistent almost the entire time. No, I wouldn't take into question any of the strategy calls Red Bull have made. Any of the decisions they've made over one driver or the other, admittedly because one driver's been incredibly slow compared to the other, but you get my point. But like, I think that it's not only Lando's inability to keep a lead after lap one up until this weekend, but like there have been so many contributing factors over the entire season, and that's what it is. It's over an entire season. It's not since the summer break. It's not up until the summer break and stuff like that. There have been way too many things that have gone against Lando and McLaren in part of their own doing. That means that it's just not on this year. There's the hope, but it's just not on. Something outrageous needs to happen, like Max needs to DNF and Lando needs to win so that there's a 26-point swing.
Yeah.
That's what needs to happen. It could. Stranger things have happened, but, you know...
I know, I'll give him McLaren a little bit of leeway because their situation's different to Red Bull.
True.
Whereas Red Bull, like, we kind of lost the constructors because they have a clear 1 and 2. They can just favour Max every time.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, Oscar's winning races and Oscar's battling Lando. It's
True.
like, oh shit, how do we handle this, right? And as much experience as you have, we've seen it before. Like 2007 is a great example. It's like when you've got two top drivers, you can have the best strategy and all that. It can be really difficult to control them.
True.
Even like Max and Daniel at Red Bull. And
I still think that with McLaren, the drivers aren't battling that much. It doesn't seem as toxic as it was in like 2007.
No, but I think because they didn't have a good car at the start, and I think when Oscar's done well, Lando hasn't. When Lando's done well, Oscar hasn't. But that's going to change once.
Up until Hungary, Hungary was the first time where either one of our drivers could win.
You saw Monza, and then you saw like Singapore. Who knows what would have happened if Oscar had qualified up into P2? Thing is, that's going to happen again probably a couple more times in the next few races.
Yeah.
And then they're going to be like, shit, what the fuck do we do with these guys?
Yeah.
But if I'm McLaren, and with the gap that Lando has to Max, I would have just said, look, Oscar, the numbers don't lie. And he said, look, if I've got an opportunity that's very clear, like Lando's fucked up, he's late braking, locked up, and I can take the lead, I'll take it. But I'm not going to put him in a stupid position. And I'm happy to hold on the basis that, say, next year things are the same, we're given equal treatment.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I would say. If I'm like McLaren right now, you need if Oscar's way out in the lead or very clearly quicker than Lando over a weekend, I don't think if Lando is second, I don't think you can ask him to give him the lead just to stay in the drivers and blah blah blah. You can't take a win away from somebody who only has 2
I think the only time they would do that is if, like, let's just say Oscar's first, Lando's second, and Max DNS. I think they'd have to make the decision.
Yeah, there I can kind of.
They'll be like,
happening.
Let Lando
we
pass.
kind of have to.
Yeah, that's what. But if it's like 1-2 and Max is third, it's like.
Yeah, then it's not. Yeah, but like it's just there's too many things that have to go in Lando's favor between now and the end of the season.
It's not in Lando's hands, so they should be making these decisions, kind of thing.
If the gap was like, let's say for example, my sort of prediction for Singapore, let's say that Max did finish P7, like around where Sergio finished, right? If he did and Lando won, game on. Because that's where I said, didn't I say? Like, that's where I said you need to take a big bite out of his lead, and you haven't.
Yeah,
it's getting a bit too close now. I just can't. There's hope. There's a lot of hope, but I can't really see it happening.
Yeah, they're racing on vibes.
Yeah, but this is what I said to you as well. If Lando wants to win, it needs to also be that, if Lando wins, let's say there's 6 races left? 6 races left. Let's say Lando wins 4, right? And Piastri wins 2, let's say, for argument's sake. Completely hypothetical. Or Leclerc wins 1, because at that point I don't really give a shit, right? Leclerc wins 1, Lando wins 4, Piastri wins 1, right? Just for argument's sake, bear with me. But I think that in order for him to even have a chance, for those races that Lando wins, Oscar has to be P2 to push Max even further down in the points. And that's 4 times in a row. Do you see what I mean? There's just too much. But the fact that it could still happen is also like, there's such a small chance for such a big amount of hope.
Yeah, you're living off vibes as well.
Yeah, I am living off vibes as well. But yeah, I think that's the only thing. And I kind of want the hope to be killed. Like, I don't want it, but I do. Like, a Lando DNF in the US and Max winning, it's done. Like, you just know then it's done. Like, there's no turning back from that. Like, the points gap then would be, I think it's 52 points at the moment. The points gap then would be, let's say that he gets fastest lap as well. That would be, oh God, you're going to see some quick maths. 78 points. You're not going to come back from that after with another 5 races. I
think the only time where it could be real if there's like a 24-point gap.
That's
when it becomes real.
If we get to Qatar and there's 25, 26 points in it, game on. Yeah. But I just can't see it.
Less than a race win. No sprints, no fastest laps. Less than a race win.
I don't want Max winning the Drivers' Championship in another fucking sprint race as well.
Yeah.
Because we have one at Qatar again.
Yeah, I don't think that will happen.
Please, for the love of God, no.
Yeah.
But I just like there's hope, but fuck me, is there a lot that needs to happen?
Yeah.
Like he essentially, Max needs to get COVID during one of the races or something, and then they need to bring Daniel Ricciardo back in. Like he's like I don't know what needs to happen, but it's too ridiculous of a situation. But like I said, next year it's in their
Who knows, man? They got to start
I
off
think
well.
it's in their hands. But I wouldn't be saying that next year is in their hands if the regulations for 2026 were different. If the regulations for 2026 were the same as 2025, then I think it's anyone's. But with the cost cap and everything like that, I think it's McLaren's, so long as they don't completely drop the fucking ball over the winter, which I can't see them doing, or Ferrari have the winter of all winters, and Lewis Hamilton comes in and is on smoke.
Too many ifs and buts. Let's just
Yeah,
focus on
exactly.
the
Yeah,
US.
yeah. Let's focus on the US. We've got, like I said, we've got what, like 3-4 weeks now until the next race.
Yeah, some fun episodes we can.
Yeah, we've got some content to do.
F1 Academy.
Yeah, we've got to film that with Karina. Unfortunately, scheduling issues means that it's going to be a little bit late, but it is what it is. We'll get it out at some point. But I mean, even with that championship, I think it's pretty obvious who's going to win that one.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more with Karina.
Yes, we will. But I mean, yeah, I've got to fill my weekends with something. You know, I don't know what to do anymore. If anyone has any ideas, let us know.
You're not training for a marathon anymore, right?
No, I'm not. No. So I need stuff to do. I mean, I can still train, but I need stuff to do. Might jump back in and do some more sim. Needs to do some photography, all that fun stuff. Have you got any plans? Have you got some golf clubs in the back? Any
No,
ideas? You just going off vibes as well?
Just going off. Mate, before we know it, it'll be 4 weeks. We'll be over.
True. Yeah. True.
Once life gets in the way, time flies.
Life continuously gets in the way. We do need to finalise some plans for next year as well. We also need to do that, so that's something we can get sorted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see the Silverstone tickets came out today?
I'm not buying.
I'm not buying them either because I've seen the prices.
Yeah, just purely out of protest. Mental.
Let me double check how much they are. Hold on.
Please check them. I'm gonna have a look as well.
Silverstone GP tickets. Because, like I said, I went 2 years ago, and its general ticket sale is opening up soon, so it's still on pre-order. You have to be like a member or something. So there's like a Lando stand that went out for sale as well. So Lando has his own stand.
Oh yeah,
too, which is quite cool, to be fair.
I've got prices.
Okay.
What would you like to know the prices of?
Oh, wait, hold on. Is that... I think I might have prices... Okay, so 3-day general admission. Oh, Jesus. 300 quid for general admission.
It's £100 a day.
Jesus. That's... Yeah. 3-day grandstand from 400 isn't the worst number I've heard in the world.
No.
That's not terrible. I mean, it depends on the grandstand. But,
Lando stand, 379.
yeah, I mean, it's inexpensive. It is.
Yeah.
It really is expensive. But also, like, this also comes from somebody who, I don't have like a minimum wage job. I do okay. So that's also coming from that perspective as well. So, like, for somebody who, maybe has never been to a Grand Prix, it just pushes that barrier way further than it should be.
Yeah, so Hamilton straight Friday to Sunday, £769, and that's a member's sale, so it could even go up for normal users.
I've just seen premium grandstand, £250. How's that?
What's a premium grandstand?
So Club Corner,
Yeah.
which is what? So, maybe I will be buying tickets. Hold on a minute. Club Corner, which is like the last corner, you'd be able to see the podium celebrations as well.
Yeah.
It's saying here, £250.
Yeah, but that's probably just for Saturday. It's just for Saturday, mate.
No, it says 3-day.
No. Club Corner 3 days, £679.
Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, no, it is only for the Saturday. It's tricked me. Bastard.
Yes, that's how they get you in.
Yeah. Oh, for God's sake.
We're
Club
rambling.
Corner,
Should we wrap it up?
£700. No.
And on that bombshell.
Yeah, let's end it there. We've been recording now for like just under an hour. We should always do this at the beginning. We never do.
Yeah.
Because nobody ever makes it through. But if you have, you've made it through almost an hour of this shit. So please do follow the podcast on your preferred podcast platforms.
It's like a reward.
It is like a reward for us for your effort for listening to this.
Some
So there you
spicy
go.
memes.
Yeah, we do. We do post memes every now and again. But yeah, be sure to follow the podcast. Come check us out on Instagram, TikTok, Threads. We've been popping on Threads a little bit recently.
Threads is like crazy.
Threads is so nice. Come and join us on Threads. My God, come and be friends with us. You know.
Yeah.
Do
you know what? It's so positive right now on
friends.
Threads. So there's a lot of positivities that I love.
There really is. So come and say hello on there. We will
say hello back.
We do. We always do, pretty much. If you send us a DM, we 99% of the time we will reply, unless you're asking for feet pics. In which case, I'll send you to my personal account. But it's
got its OnlyFans links on it.
Only feet. Come and say hello. And we'll be back over the summer break with some autumn break. My God, we'll be back over the autumn break with some fun stuff, with some friends as well. We'll be getting some friends involved too, because we have friends apparently.
Formula One friends.